Welcome to the Idiot's Guide. I'm Mackie Hall, and recently for a skate project, I had to learn how to build this logo. Now that doesn't seem like much, but I had to learn how to build retro planets. And in the process, I learned about modifying shapes, the Ellipse tool, and most importantly, the Shape Builder tool. As a matter of fact, I learned enough to want to pass it on. So with that in mind, we're going to have a pretty cool lesson about how to build stars and planets. We're even going to learn a little bit about pen stroking our shapes. Here's what we're going to learn. We're going to learn the advanced use of the Ellipse tool, how to bevel corners using the anchor point tool, how to create shapes with the Shape Builder tool, how to use minus front from the Pathfinder tool, and how to create pen strokes using the appearance window. Definitely useful, and once you learn the basics, definitely easy. Let's go. All right, let's get started. The first thing we are going to do is we're going to create a new document. Our new document will be 1,000 points wide, but 1,000 points tall. We'll have a single artboard and we'll have the RGB color mode. Let's go ahead and create. All right, before we get started, I want to mention that we are using the Essentials Classic Workspace. I prefer the Essentials Classic Workspace because it gives me the most options and shows me the most tools and windows right off the bat. To switch to the Essentials Classic Workspace, all you need to do is go to Switch Workspace and select Essentials Classic. Next thing I want to mention is we are using Smart Guides. To access and activate Smart Guides, go to View, Smart Guides, or Control U. Next thing I want to mention is that we're going to be using the bottom center of our workspace to highlight tips and tricks and offer hotkey and key command recommendations. Last thing I want to mention is that we're building our piece on a Windows PC. That means we'll be using the Control key instead of the Command key if you're on a Mac. Anytime we recommend the Control key on our hotkey or key command recommendations, just swap in the Command key and you will be all set. All right, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set a black background on our page. We do that by grabbing our rectangle tool, going to the top left of our page, and dragging to the bottom right of our page, just like that. Once we've done that, let's go ahead and set a black fill and a transparent stroke. Once we've got a black fill, if we're using the default colors, let's double click on our fill and let's drag our fill all the way down to black and make sure that our R, G, and B color values are at 0. Click OK. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and lock our shape. We do that by going to Object, Lock, Selection, or Control 2. Now that we've completed that, let's go ahead and talk about our stars. First of all, the most basic star is just a simple circle. So let's go ahead and draw those first. The way we access our Ellipse tool that generates our circles is we press and hold our rectangle tool and we select our Ellipse tool, or of course, press L on the keyboard. Before we start drawing our circles, first thing we need to do is we need to set our colors. The way we're going to do that is we're going to set a white fill. We're going to double click on our black fill and we'll drag our fill all the way to white, just like that. We'll click OK. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start drawing our circles. To make sure our ellipses are full and perfect circles, we're going to hold the Shift key. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to click, draw, and release, just like that. All the while, of course, holding our Shift key to make sure our shapes are perfectly round. Do one more. Let's go ahead and deselect by grabbing our selection tool, clicking anywhere on our artboard. There you go, that's easy enough. But what about taking it a step further? What if you want a twinkling star with some round corners? Well, you came to the right place. Here's what you do now. First thing you do is you go to your Ellipse tool, you click and hold, and then drag down to your star tool. Next, you're going to click anywhere on your artboard, again, making sure that you've got a white fill and transparent stroke. Go ahead and click here. Once we've done that, let's go ahead and make sure we've got a 4-point star. And then our first radius is 40 points. And our second radius is 10 points. Let's go ahead and click OK. If we deselect this shape, we'll grab our selection tool, click anywhere on our artboard. can notice that that's an okay star, but it just doesn't have that organic sense about it. The way we fix that is we round the corners a little bit. Check out how we're going to do it. Let's select our shape first, and then let's go ahead and zoom in by pressing Control+. Once we've done that, we're going to bevel our corners by using the Add Anchor Point tool. Here's how we do it. We're going to grab our pen tool, we're going to click and hold that, and we're going to select Anchor Point tool. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to modify all of the interior anchor points. We'll start with our top right one. First thing we'll do is we'll click and drag on our interior anchor point. We'll hold our Shift key to make sure it locks in at 45 degrees, and we'll drag on it until we meet the center point of our shape, just like that. We're going to continue to work our way around. Again, we'll click on our bottom right anchor point. We'll click, drag, holding our Shift key until we get to our center, just like that. And we'll keep working our way around. Again, click, hold our Shift key, drag till we hit the center point, and then one more time. Click, hold our Shift key, drag until we hold our center point, like that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our selection tool. We'll click anywhere on the artboard. Let's go ahead and bring our whole page to view by hitting Control-0. And that looks pretty good right there. Let's go ahead and make some copies of it. The way we make copies of it is we'll select our star. We'll copy and paste in front. I just use the key commands for that, Control-C and Control-F. You can also go to Edit, Copy, and paste in front right there. You can always paste and it'll land in the middle of your page. Now we're going to move our new star over by holding our Shift key and arrowing to the right. We hold down our Shift key, it moves our elements in 10-point increments. Let's scale it down by hovering over the bottom right-hand corner and waiting for the scale symbol to pop up. We're going to hold our Shift key, we'll click and drag in to make it smaller, just like that. Let's go ahead and make a couple more copies. Again, I'm going to copy and paste in front. I'll hold my Shift key, arrow to the right, and then again hold my Shift key, go to my bottom right, wait for my scale icon to appear, and then click and drag to make it larger. Let's do it a couple more times. Again, copy, paste in front, hold our Shift key, arrow to the right, and I'll scale to make it smaller. One more time, copy, paste in front, hold my Shift key, arrow to the right. Again, hold my Shift key, wait for my scale icon to appear, and click and drag bigger, just like that. Let's go ahead and deselect. That looks pretty good right there. All right, now we've got our stars and twinkling stars or advanced stars out of the way. How about making a planet? Well, common logic would always dictate that we use our Ellipse tool for that. So let's get started with that. Let's go ahead and grab our Ellipse tool by selecting our star tool, holding it, and let's grab our Ellipse tool. Next thing I want to do is I want to drag out and build a round shape. The way I do that, once again, is I hold my Shift key, I'll click and drag until I've got a planet the size that I want. That looks pretty good right there. Let's grab our selection tool. Let's go ahead and deselect. Now, if you look at that, we've certainly got the shape right, but the color doesn't work. So what we need to do is we need to add some color to it. If we're going to build sort of that retro cartoon planet, of course, we want something bright, maybe a pastel or a vibrant primary, perhaps. So let's think about that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my shape. Let's go ahead and change our fill by double-clicking our fill. Let's find a good bright red or pink. That might work. That looks pretty good right there. I'll click on that. Let's click OK. Let's go ahead and grab our selection tool, make sure it's already there. Let's deselect our shape. And that looks okay. But one thing that our planet is missing right there is depth. So check out in the top right corner what we're going to go ahead and build. We're going to add ellipses to give our shape a little bit more form. So here's how we're going to do it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to select our shape. And let's go ahead and give our shape a white stroke and a black fill. It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be default, just like that. And let's go ahead and zoom into our shape. The way we're going to do that is we're going to select our piece. We're going to hold the Control key and press plus at the same time. Notice that you zoom right into your shape. Now that we've got that, let's go ahead and start building ellipses inside of our shape to give it that structure that we're trying to find. The best way to do that is let's go to outlines. The way we do that is we're going to press Control Y, and we are now in outlines. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape. We're going to make sure our selection tool is selected, and we're going to click anywhere off of our shape. Next, we're going to grab our ellipse tool, and we're going to hover at the center of our shape. Once we're there, we're going to click and drag out, and we're going to hold down our Alt key so that our shape expands from the center. Next, we're going to drag out all the way to the edge of our shape, just like that, and release. Notice that the scale of our ellipse is about a 1/4 to 1/5 height to width ratio. That looks pretty good right there. We deselect, you can see what we've done right there. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and add more ellipses to it. Here's how we're going to do that. We're going to select our ellipse, and then we're going to copy and paste in front. Again, you can go Edit, Copy, then Edit, Paste in front, or of course you can hit Control C and Control F. Now that we've done that, I'm going to hold my Shift key and arrow up a couple of times. That means I'll arrow up 20 points, just like this. Once I've done that, let's go ahead and scale our new ellipse by selecting our Scale tool. All we need to do is double click on it. And then let's go ahead and scale our ellipse down so that it is just slightly wider than the width of our planet. The way we do that is when our scale window appears, we want to make sure our preview is selected, and then we scale uniformly down. All I need to do is press my up or down directional keys. That looks pretty good right there. Let's click OK. And let's do it again. I'll copy and paste in front. I'm going to hold my Shift key, and I'm going to arrow up once. And once again, let's go ahead and scale that. Double click on our Scale tool. We'll arrow down until our ellipse is slightly larger than the width of our planet right there. We'll click OK. And let's repeat the process one more time. Again, we'll copy, paste in front. We'll hold our Shift key and we'll arrow up twice. Looks pretty good right there. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to select our Scale tool, double click on it, and we'll scale down until, again, our ellipse is slightly larger than the width of our planet right there. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and click OK. And let's do the same thing for underneath our initial ellipse. So again, we're going to grab our selection tool, we'll deselect our shape, and we'll click on our initial shape. Again, I'm going to copy and paste in front, hold my Shift key, and I will arrow down twice. Next, I'll grab my Scale tool, double click on it, and let's again scale to the width. Looks good right there. Once again, let's copy and paste in front, and let's arrow down that same distance. Again, we'll grab our Scale tool, we'll double click, and let's scale down once again, just larger than the width. Looks good. Let's click OK. And there you go. We've got all of our ellipses in place. However, if we exit outlines, take a look at what our shape looks like. It's not exactly the planetary shape that we're looking for. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start carving out the shapes that we want to use. The way we do that is we are going to use the Shape Builder tool. So let's get started. First of all, let's go back to Outlines. And let's go ahead and select all of our planetary shapes that we're going to use. The way we do that is we grab our selection tool. Let's go ahead and select all of our shapes. And then let's zoom in just a little bit. That looks pretty good right there. And let's grab our Shape Builder tool. Click on that. And here's how our Shape Builder tool works. Shape Builder tool combines overlapping lines to create new shapes. For instance, I know I want to use the top of my planet for a shape, and I don't want to use any of those overlapping shapes in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag across the top shape that I want. That looks pretty good right there. And note that I've created a singular shape from that. Note that when I drag out and create my shapes, however, that I'm not going to select any element that is outside of my initial planetary circle. I'm going to delete those parts of the shapes. Let's go ahead and continue, and let's make our shapes, again, using the Shape Builder tool. I'll click from right to left. There you go. Now again, I don't want any shapes outside of my circle, so again, I'll click right to left, making sure that I do not select anything on the outside. There you go. Let's finish out our shape. Can't emphasize it enough. Again, do not select anything outside of our circle. Once we're close to done, let's make sure that we select the bottom oval. That will create its own unique shape right there. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and exit our outline, see what it looks like now. That looks a little bit better. Let's go ahead and grab our selection tool and deselect our shape. Now that we've done that, if I click anywhere on my shape, notice that I've created unique shapes out of all of my initial shapes. That's going to work towards our advantage. Here's what we're going to do next. We're going to get rid of all those shapes that are outside of our circle that we did not select the last go around. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to drag across our shape from top center to bottom center with our selection tool, just like this. Once we've done that, let's go ahead and cut our shape. We can press Ctrl X or Edit, Cut. Now that I've done that, notice that we've got all of those shapes outside of our circle that we didn't select. It's exactly what we want right there. Let's go ahead and select them and delete them. I'm going to drag from top left to bottom right, just like that. Let's go ahead and delete. And let's go ahead and paste our cut shape in front. Again, we can select Edit, Paste in front, or Control F. Let's go ahead and deselect. And that is perfect right there. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and add some color to our shape. The way we want to do it is I want to take alternate shapes and have the same color selected. So here we go. We're going to grab our selection tool and hold our Shift key. We're going to click on alternating elements. There's the first one selected. There's the third one, the fifth one, and the seventh one. Now that we've got those selected, let's go ahead and make our stroke transparent. We'll select our stroke. We'll make it transparent. And then let's go ahead and change the color of our fill. We'll double click on our fill. And let's go ahead and make this color something a bit of a bright red, a pastel red perhaps. Let's drag down our colors. That looks pretty good right there. And then let's give it a little bit of darkness perhaps. Make it about right there. That looks pretty good. Let's click OK. That looks really good right there. Let's go ahead and change the other shapes right now. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape. Let's hold our Shift key and select the other three shapes. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and make our stroke transparent, and let's change the color of our fill. Again, let's go ahead and give our secondary color about the same treatment, except let's make that red just a little bit deeper, perhaps about like that might look good. Let's go ahead and click OK. Go ahead and make sure our selection tool is selected. Let's deselect. That looks pretty good right there. Let's bring our whole page into view by selecting Control 0. And you can see now that our shape has a little bit of body and a little bit of depth to it. Let's finish this out. First thing we're going to do is we're going to drag across our shape from top left to bottom right. Let's group it together by selecting Object, Group, or Control G. Let's select it one more time. We'll copy and paste in front. And let's do one more thing to give this piece a little bit more life. We'll hold our Shift key. We'll arrow our copy to the right. That looks good right there. And let's rotate it. A simple way to rotate it without exiting our selection tool is to hover over the edges of our shape to any corner. This time around, I'm going to select the bottom right-hand corner and wait for my rotate icon to appear. Once I do that, I'm going to click and I'm going to rotate my shape any way. This time around, I'm going to rotate about 30 degrees to the right. Looks pretty good right there. Let's grab our selection tool. Let's deselect. And that looks pretty cool. Let's do something else. This time around, let's create a planet with a ring around it. Think about Saturn. First thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and create our planet. We're going to grab our ellipse tool, and right down here, let's go ahead and just make our circle. We're going to hold our shift key. Let's click and drag. That looks pretty good, about like that. Doesn't need to be a big circle. Let's go ahead and arrow it over just a little bit, maybe like that. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and change the color of our planet, maybe to something blue. We'll double click on our fill. We'll go ahead and find a blue that we might like. I think that looks pretty good. Think about something like pretty oceanic. I like that right there. And let's go ahead and zoom into our shape. Now let's go ahead and deselect. That's a great start right there. So now let's add our rings. Here's how we do that. Again, we're going to grab our ellipse tool. We're going to hover over the center of our circle until we arrive at center, just like that. We're going to click and drag. This time around, again, we'll hold our Alt key so that we expand from center. And we're going to pick an ellipse that works for us. I think that looks pretty good right there. So we'll release. And let's go ahead and give our shape a white stroke and a transparent fill so we can see what we're going to be doing. Looks pretty good right there. Let's go ahead and add a few more ovals so that we can start building out our ring. Let's go ahead and copy and paste in front. Again, Control C, Control F, and let's again grab our scale tool. We'll double click on that. We'll uniformly scale our shape down, maybe about 90%. That looks pretty good right there. I stopped at 89%. Let's click OK. And let's make a couple more rings. What I want to do here is I want to make 3 rings with our inside ring and outside ring a bright red, and then our middle ring sort of a dark red. Let's see if we can do that. Let's copy and paste in front again. Let's double click on our scale tool. Let's scale down maybe about 87%, something like that. You can pick your width here. Let's click OK. And let's do it one more time. Again, copy and paste in front, Control C, Control F. Let's double click our scale tool and let's scale down again. I think that looks pretty good right there. It doesn't need to be perfect. Click OK. And there you go. You can see sort of start of the rings that we're going to have around this planet. With that in mind, all of the ellipses that we have created are unique shapes unto their own. If we select them all, we'll grab our selection tool and select all of our ring shapes. If we change our stroke to fill, you'll notice that everything fills. Instead, what we want to do is we want to create individual shapes with no fill in the middle. Here's how we do that. Let's go ahead and go back to our stroke. Let's deselect our shapes. And this time around, what we want to do is we want to select our innermost and outermost oval. Let's hold our shift key. We'll select our outermost first, and then we'll select our innermost. What we're going to do is we're going to combine these two shapes so that the middle is transparent. Here's how we're going to do that. First of all, we're going to swap our fill and stroke so that both of them are filled. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our Pathfinder window. We go to Window, Pathfinder, and then let's go ahead and select minus front. Remember, we were copying and pasting in front, so our innermost shape is in front. Let's click minus front, and you'll notice straight away that we don't have a front. These two shapes have now been combined. So let's continue with our middle ellipses. Before we release this, let's go ahead and change our fill back to stroke, just like that. And now let's go ahead and select our 2 middle ellipses. Again, I'll select one, hold my shift key, select the other. Let's go ahead and change our stroke to fill. And with our Pathfinder window still open, let's go ahead and select minus front once again. That looks pretty good. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and change the fill to all of our elements. Again, what we want is we want a brighter red on the outside and a darker red in the middle. Let's do it. Let's deselect our shapes. And again, let's select our outermost shape, just like that. Next thing we're going to do is we want to swap our fill and our stroke. And let's go get ourselves a bright red by clicking on the fill. Now that we've done that, let's go to a more red shape, just like that. I like that. And let's click on this bright red right here. I like that. Let's click OK. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and retrieve our other ellipse shape, which is behind this shape. We'll go to Outlines. Let's deselect our outermost shape and select our innermost shape, just like that. Next, we're going to right click on it. Let's select Arrange, bring to front, just like that. And let's exit our outlines. Next, let's go ahead and get a darker red. We'll do that by selecting our fill. We'll go to red, and let's go ahead and find a darker one. I think that looks pretty good right there. Maybe a little bit lighter like that. Let's click OK. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape. That looks really good right there. So what we're going to do to make sure our rings stay intact is we're going to select them both, and let's go up to Object, Group, or Control G. Now those two shapes will operate as one. Let's deselect. Now we're in business, but we've got a problem. Note that our ring is in front of our planet. What we want to do is we want to give the illusion that the ring is wrapping around our planet. How do we do that? Well, here's how we're going to do that. Is we're going to copy our initial circle, paste it in front, bring it to the front, and then what we're going to do is we're going to make a clipping mask to hide the bottom half of the shape. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and do it. This is an important little tool that we've got, and it's really cool at the same time. Let's go ahead and select our circle. Again, we'll copy and paste in front, Control C, Control F. You can always go to Edit Copy, Edit Paste in front. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to right click on our new shape. Let's go to Arrange and select Bring to Front. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape. Now we've got a shape behind our ring, and we've got our new shape in front of our string. So what we want to do next is we want to hide the bottom half of our new shape. Here's how we do it. Let's go ahead and go to our ellipse tool. We'll click and hold that. We'll select our rectangle tool. What we're going to do now is we're going to create our masking shape. We'll start anywhere in the circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll start at the middle. We'll drag from bottom left to top right. That looks pretty good right there. Let's release. What we've now done is we've created our mask shape. Any of the shapes are intersecting are going to show. Any areas that are outside of that intersect are not going to show. Let me show you how it gets done. Let's grab our selection tool. Let's hold our shift key. We've already got our rectangle selected, and let's select our front planet. Once we've selected them both, let's go ahead and right click on our two shapes, and let's select Make Clipping Mask. Let's go ahead and deselect. And there you go. We have got a ringed planet now. Let's do a couple more things and let's finish this deal out. Let's drag from top left to bottom right, just like that. Let's right click on our object and let's select Group. You can also go to Object, Group if it's not been done. Let's go ahead and deselect. Let's bring the whole page into view. And that looks really, really radical. Let's do one more thing to take this shape to a whole new level. Let's select this piece right here. Let's copy and paste it in front. Let's hold our shift key and let's arrow to the right. Looks good right there. And let's rotate our piece once again. We'll do the same thing that we did with our previous planet. We'll hover at the bottom left until we get our rotate icon. Let's click and drag out and release. This time I'm releasing at about 50 degrees. Let's deselect. I think that looks pretty radical right there. All right, we've got one more thing to do. Notice that if we ever watch cartoons or any retro cartoons, think about the Jetsons, maybe some Flintstones cartoons. All of the cartoons have these black pen lines to it to separate the colors. It's a really cool effect. It definitely calls to retro. And so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to teach you how to take these planets and give them that retro pen line. Let's demonstrate with our ringed planet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select my ringed planet. I'm going to copy and paste in front. Again, Control C and Control F. I'm going to hold my shift key and arrow directly underneath. It looks pretty good right there. Let's go ahead and zoom in. And now that we've zoomed into our shape, let's go ahead and ungroup it. That way we'll have 3 individual elements to add our pen stroke to. Let me show you what I do. Right click on it, we'll select ungroup. You can also go to object ungroup. Let's go ahead and start with our rings. Let's go ahead and select our rings. And let's add our stroke to it. But we're not going to just add a stroke in our stroke and fill. Instead, we're going to use a new tool called our appearance window. Let's go. Let's click window, select appearance. And let's go ahead and add a stroke to this. The way we do that is we go to the bottom left of our appearance window and we select add a new stroke. Notice when we do that, our stroke is added within our shape. Let's go ahead and kick up that stroke to make it nice and thick first. Bring it up to about 6 points perhaps. That looks good right there. And let's change our stroke to be perfectly black. Here's how we do it. We hold our shift key and we click on our stroke color. And then we hover down into our colors and we drag down until our R, G, and B values are 0, just like that. Once we've got that, let's click anywhere on our artboard and we are looking pretty good. Next thing we want to do is we want to have our strokes behind our fill content. Here's how we do that. Let's deselect our stroke and now let's grab our stroke and drag them underneath our contents just like that. Let's release. Let's deselect our shape and take a look. Now we've got that pen line around our rings. Let's finish this out. Let's add a pen line to our top circle, and then we're going to do the same with our bottom circle. Let's go. Let's select our top circle. We'll click on that. Again, we're going to select add new stroke. Let's change our stroke thickness to 6 again, or whatever works for you. Let's hold our shift key and let's change our stroke to black again by hovering over the colors and then dragging down until our R, G, and B values are 0. We'll click anywhere on our artboard to deselect. We'll deselect our stroke, and then let's select our stroke and drag it behind contents once again. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape, and that looks good. Now, while it looks like we're done, we need to do one more thing. We need to add a pen line under our original circle. The reason is that if we ever put our planet in front of any other objects, we want to have a consistent pen line. Let's go ahead and select our bottom circle. And note, because it's a basic shape, we've already got a stroke associated with it. So what we're going to do here is we'll click on our stroke and let's increase the stroke size to 6 points, just like that. Let's hold our shift key, make sure that our R, G, and B values are at 0. They are. So let's click anywhere on our artboard. We'll deselect our stroke, and now again, let's drag our stroke underneath our fill contents, just like that. That's perfect. Let's deselect our shape, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Let's do a couple more things, we'll finish it out. First thing we're going to do is we're going to click and drag across our entire shape, and let's group it once again. This time around, we'll go Object, Group. That's perfect. And then we're going to do one more thing to finalize our shape. We're going to take our strokes and convert them to fills. Why? Because that way, if we ever have to scale our shape, we can make sure that our pen lines scale along with our shape. So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to go to Object, and we're going to select Expand Appearance. This is going to do nothing. What it does is it's going to give us permission to expand our strokes. Here's what we do next. Let's go back to Object, and we're going to click on Expand. And when we do that, our Expand window pops up. We want to make sure that our fill and stroke is selected, and then we're going to click OK. Watch what happens to our stroke when we do it. Our stroke is now a fill. That's perfect because now we can scale our shapes, and our strokes will scale right along with it. Let's bring our whole page into view so I can demonstrate. Let's deselect our shape. That looks so fresh right there. Let's select it once again. Let's copy and paste in front. Let's hold our shift key and arrow to the right till we are clear of our shape, just like that. Let's go ahead and scale it. This time around, what we're going to do is we're going to hover at the bottom right corner of our shape. When we see our scale icon, we're going to hold our Shift key to keep things proportionate. Let's click and drag. Notice that when we do that, let's go ahead and deselect. Our strokes scaled right along with it. Let's go ahead and do one more thing to our shape. Yep, let's rotate our shape. Let's see what things look like. Let's select it, hover over the bottom right corner again until we get the rotate icon. Let's click and let's rotate that thing just a little bit. That looks pretty good right there. Let's deselect. We've just learned to create stars and planets. We've also learned how to add a little pen line to the whole thing. With that in mind, we are done. All right, now that you've built these basic planets, it's your turn. Your next steps are as follows. Number 1, how about building a complex planet with a ring around it? Number 2, go ahead and add a moon behind your complex planet. And then number 3, how about building a spaceship? Tip is start with an oval instead of a circle. All right, now that we're done with that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. Otherwise, throw me a like. I'd really appreciate that. Lastly, subscribe. I'd appreciate that just a little bit more. We'll see you next time. Peace.